that make regional and global cuisine appealing. The world cuisine is one of the most celebrated topics in the world. The topic brings into focus recipes, stories, and memories. The cultural aspect of a nation or region comes alive through the lens of food, where food can turn up unlimited discussions. So let's start with a session that sure will please your minds and taste buds. As a Sans woman of Ludhiana, I, Pallavi Papa, take immense joy to welcome you to the right circle with the food guru of India, Miss Karen Anand. A very hearty welcome to the celebrated food writer, restaurateur, and TV personality. Ma'am, we are delighted to have you amongst us, our very own masala main sahib. With Miss Anand, the right circle in Ludhiana promises to be a delectable one. Ms. Zarka Jain, Ehsaas woman of Ludhiana, will be here in the seat of the conversationalist. The engaging chat between the duo is going to be exciting. The audience will get a glimpse into the life of Anand, her amazing recipes, and the fascinating experiences of a person who has redefined Indian cuisine and influenced the way people eat. Today, the Right Circle session has been organized by Prabha Khaitan Foundation in association with SR's Women of Ludhiana. The event is being hosted at Club Centra and is supported by the distinguished patron of the foundation, Shree Cement Limited, as their CSR initiative. Before the session begins, allow me to say a few words about Prabha Khaitan Foundation. Prabha Khaitan Foundation is the brainchild of late Dr. Prabha Khaitan, an eminent literature and cultural enthusiast. Established back in the 1980s, the foundation has dedicatedly worked towards curating initiatives that encourage the growth, reach, and readership of literature, be it English, Hindi, or the vernacular languages. Apart from organizing boutique authors, sorry. Apart from organizing boutique authors' meets and literary festivals, the foundation has always taken the best step forward to promote and preserve the cultural aspects of India. Prabha Khaitan Foundation is a name to reckon with as a non-profitable trust which showcases the literary and cultural diversities of India on the global map and also champions the cause of women's empowerment and social welfare. The foundation is active in more than 40 cities in India and has a brilliant presence on foreign shores. In its best efforts to curate fascinating literary, art, and cultural events, the foundation is supported by eminent patrons Shree Cement Limited, distinguished associates and collaborators, and Ehsaas Women of India. In the mission to widen the reach and readership of English literature, the Prabha Khaitan Foundation has curated amazing initiatives. The Right Circle is one among them. The Right Circle is a great platform for authors to connect with niche readers and share their views and thoughts. It gives a golden opportunity to showcase their life and literary works, thereby widening the reach and readership of English literature. Our guest for today is Karen Anand, who is truly an icon. Karen Anand was born in Bombay but grew up in London and studied in Paris. She has a degree from Sussex University and diplomas from the Sorbonne École des Sciences Politiques and École du Louvre in Paris. She returned to India in 1984 and decided to dabble in cooking. Until then, a hobby, which eventually turned into a path-breaking career. In the late 80s, unable to find halfway decent European food outside five-star hotels, she set up a salad bar, first in Pune and then in Bombay. Both were runaway successes and the first of their kind in the country. Miss Anand is also a prolific author with 20 books under her belt. In conversation with Miss Anand is Ms. Zarka Jain, Ehsaas woman of Ludhiana, who is a great literary enthusiast and a wonderful cook herself. Without further delay, I request Ms. Jain to take the conversation further.
Thank you, Pallavi. Here we have a beautiful book full of recipes.
Business, as you know, you have to be a little bit jack of all trades. And so I'm always thinking of names, and I write, as you know, that's my first love. And so I just thought, what would describe me and my journey? And I'm a bit of a mimsa, that they said when I launched in Bombay a couple of years ago. I can't get away from it. And I thought masala was a nice catchy way of describing Indian food, rather than Indian this and swag that, and and it's something that could go internationally. I don't know if Mensap is understood internationally, but certainly it has a ring to it.
Tell us a bit about the book, what it's about.
So the book is, when I came back in the end of '83, beginning of '84, I found that I did European food because I found it was missing in India, and it's what I knew. I always do things that I know. There's no point venturing into something I don't know. Like the gentleman was asking me earlier, do you have you written about Japanese food? I said, no, I don't know Japanese food. I love Japanese food, but I don't know it. I don't claim to know it. How can I write about it? So I did European food. That's where I grew up, and my exposure to Indian food was really only my mother. The poor thing didn't cook at all. She hated cooking, and she went to England and sort of cried every day for 2 years because she hated the fact that she had to cook. She was one of these post-war women in India where it was liberating to have somebody else to cook. The generation before was different. You have to do everything with grandpa and grandmothers. And I think my mother's generation, my mother-in-law's generation, they pushed, when I look back, they pushed us to work, to get educated. So for that generation, food was not something that you had to carry on as a tradition. It was a burden. So when I came back, I did European food. My mother was absolutely, she said, you've done all these degrees and cooking. So it took her a long time to understand what I did. And then I started collecting recipes. I was quite lucky. I got, after the success of the salad bar, I was offered, those were cowboy days. We didn't have PR people, we didn't have any of that. I was at the right place at the right time. I had no business plan in mind. I was young, I was in Bombay, it was fresh. And I got lots of people asked me to be on the cover of magazines and so on, very lucky. And through that, I got TV shows. And so I was traveling a lot with the first TV show. You'll know how old you are if you remember the TV show. Because those who remember it are my age. Those who don't remember it are obviously much younger. In Bombay the other day when the GM of the Sacred just launched my book, Kunal Majekya was there, we were chatting, and he's a little bit younger than me. And the GM said, I first saw Carry On when I was in 4th grade and I went, really? I know I'm growing my hair now, but still, you don't have to say it so loudly. So I did a show, and then with that show, because it was 52 episodes, The Good Food Guide, it was for Star TV, we went around India and did a lot of trying of recipes. And so during that time, I picked up a lot of recipes, started writing them down. I just didn't feel that I knew enough to write a book. And I did write one called Lean Cuisine Curries, and that was my ode. I felt that Indian food in restaurants, both in India as well as abroad, was being misrepresented. And it didn't really reflect the kind of food we eat at home. It was that same old biryani, same old, chicken makhani, and it was just so boring. And so, and if you look in the back, there's 3 masalas being made in all these restaurants. One red one, which is ginger garlic paste with Kashmiri chili and tomato, another green one and a white one. Even in big hotels, there are 3 gravies made, and everything is a combination of these 3 gravies. And I thought, how sad, that's nothing to do with the way any state in India has cooks at home. And I started writing all of these down. And I just, as I said, I didn't write the book earlier except Lean Cuisine Curries. And Lean Cuisine Curries was not, I was not trying to make a diet book. I was just giving people an idea of how we cook at home. And how we cook with such, Punjab is a little bit different, but Maharashtra is very frugal. they don't use a lot of ghee, they don't use a lot of oil. By nature, that's part of the food it is. Everything is very frugal. The way they entertain, the way they dress. We have a little Punjabi in our family as well. We have someone who's married a Punjabi. She came to undergo one of the Maharashtrian weddings in Rani Pink, and because she knew that the bride was wearing, I think, a light gold or a white, I'm going to wear Rani Pink. Everybody stared at her. Because nobody in Maharashtra wears Rani Pink. Ever. And I thought, what a breath of fresh air. Because everyone was in greys and beiges and pales and muted, because they didn't like to stand out. So that's how it came about. And then finally, during COVID, I actually, my mother always said when I was little, I had itchy feet. I can't stay in one place too long, I have to travel. And I've been like that since I was little. During COVID, I was stuck at home, which was actually quite nice. And so I sat down, and a friend of mine said, about time you wrote a book on cooking. And so I looked through the computer, thank God for computers, looked through my notebooks and found all these recipes, 200-300 more recipes, and I thought about time I sat down. So I approached a friend I approached a publisher through a friend, and they said they were interested, and then they had some issues, not with me, but with their parent company. I wanted this book to have a big publisher. I wanted it to have an international publisher, because I think after all the trouble I've taken, the book should go abroad as well. So that didn't work out, and then I went through another Asian friend in Delhi, and she got me the film.
That's really wonderful. So tell me, when I was reading the book, I think I loved the little bits of history and interesting facts dispersed on the story.
Yeah.
There's this fact about the Alfonso Mango being baptized by a Portuguese priest, and you talk about the bhajia, how it tastes the best when eaten out of a newspaper.
Yeah, I think it does.
So how did you choose your recipes? There are some recipes which are the two-pronged, the two peplas, and so how did you pick and choose? I'm sure since you've been traveling since so long, there must have been hundreds of recipes.
Yeah, two or three things. I think when you do a limited amount of states, like I did, a couple of things you have to bear in mind. One is that people look for recipes which they can identify with. So if you're looking at Gujarat, you have to have it with you. It's not my favorite dish at all, but you have to have it. So, I looked for a family recipe for it with you. You have to have thepla. You have to have a curry. So there's 3 or 4 things which I thought wherever you are in the world, you will want to do from Goa, you will want to do a vindaloo, you will want to do a prawn curry, you will want to do a bhaja. Then the rest are really a lot of easy recipes. I was very, very mindful of the fact that I didn't want to make a book with recipes that were not easy to do. It should be recipes that you pick up and you think, oh, that's difficult, but I can do that, all of these. So Maharashtra, for example, has a simple recipe which my driver used to bring, and I used to think, oh man, that looks nice, and he's now become head of logistics for us. He's grown, and yeah, we believe in promoting people. And they all share in the office, and I don't usually work in the office; I work from home. But one day I was in the office and I saw this fantastic spring onion sabzi. It was just spring onions, mirchi, spring onion, and dried prawns. It's the dried prawn that really gives it that umami. And I said, my God, this is fantastic. He said, my mother makes it. So she gave me the recipe. Of course, I used half the amount of oil that she uses. It takes 5 minutes to make. And there are recipes like that all over the book. Because I feel if you do not have recipes that are doable, you'll go on the nice stories and then you'll go on the shelf along with the others.
Yes, but like in today's digital era, you have recipes like famous chefs or anything available instantly. Everything is available away.
Yes.
So, were you ever skeptical about putting a recipe book out there?
No, that's a good question. People say that. But I want to ask you, when I'm looking for a recipe, anything, let's look at French, Mexican, whatever we might want to do. You look at Google, there are 200, 20 recipes that come up. How do you know which of those recipes works? It's very difficult. I don't know. So, I look at them and I'm thinking, something simple like pizza or apple pie or God knows what. There are all these recipes that come up and I don't know if they work, and am I going to go through all of them? No. Then I choose something like BBC Good Food. Or I choose, I don't know, I'm not too fond of Jamie Oliver, but Nigel Slater. There are a few people that I really like, and I know whose recipes work. Nigella's recipes work for desserts, not for other things. BBC Good Food is a sort of classic, their things work. Indian, there might be a couple of the people I look to. So eventually, I will look for the people I recognize. Because I don't know if all the recipes or if Darshana's kitchen or God knows whatever, if it works or not. Because Darshana also does recipes from America and recipes from here. I don't know her recipes. So I think in the end, no, we're not frightened of Google. I think we still survive in the written world. And I think people will come to us, and I would like to ask you that question if you're looking for a recipe. I think you will go to somebody that you know.
Tell me, you mentioned in the book that it was while formulating them, you had to talk about Andaz say, because there were some chefs who weren't willing to give away their secret.
Including my grandmother. My own grandmother. Yeah.
So how many trials did you have to do for each recipe, or do you generally improvise while cooking, or do you follow a recipe?
No, not to the T, but recipes that I make often I know. The T recipes are bakery and patisserie, because I'm not a bakery and patisserie person. So I think bakery and patisserie is like chemistry. You have to have, if it says 220 grams, it has to be 220 grams, it can't be 230 grams, right? So those things, for cakes, for patisserie, especially because I'm not a patissier by nature or by training, I follow to the T. Once I get that recipe right, I just follow it. Savory, I do other things. So, for example, when we have our launches, cocktail launches, I do some recipes from the book. So I do a corn balcha, absolutely my grandmother's recipe. She never told anybody, not even my mother, her recipe. So finally, when she died, we didn't know what to do. We found on the net many recipes, none of them were like hers. So finally, my mother tracked down her maid to her sister-in-law's house, and this lady was, doing this. So my mother said, I don't know, sort of a pinch, a handful. So she wrote that down, and then I tried everything from a pinch to a handful, and kind of got it to her taste. But it was much simpler than other people's recipes. So it's a tough one, this whole andaz. But I think the only thing that you really have to, I think a recipe is an indication. So, if you're a good cook, you'll take it. But I think patisserie, bakery, you have to stick to the recipe.
So, can we say actually, since the book revolves around recipes of 5 states, particularly, and
Yes.
the section at the end,
Yes.
some other recipes. So, is it a conscious attempt for you to change the perception of the world about Indian food? Because I think thanks to the Punjabi diaspora, go abroad and people just, Indian food is not so dal bati,
Absolutely.
butter chicken.
Yeah.
So,
I don't want to claim that I'm going to do any worldwide, stories, but I think thanks to the Punjabi community, absolutely, because you're industrious and you go out there and there's Southall and there's, Birmingham and Manchester and there's North food everywhere. And the tandoori chicken, I really think should be taken internationally, and KFC should be kicked out. Don't you? I think tandoori chicken should be everywhere. But I do think, and I've done recent, I did 2 restaurant projects in London. One was called Dishun, which some of you might know. I started that 12, 13 years ago, and now, of course, it's a huge success. And I did the story as well as the recipes, and many of the recipes are still there. And then in 2021, I opened for a Punjabi client from Karnal. I opened a restaurant called Colonel Saab. And Colonel Saab is quite different. It takes you on a journey around India. And the story is the Colonel and his wife went around. And so in Colonel Saab, I had much more of a free hand to do some interesting recipes from around India. And although we have to keep that Richard butter chicken in there, we have to keep the black dal in there because the British love it. We also have done some South Indian things. We've done a polo soup curry, and I do it in vegetarian as well. A lot more vegetarian than used to be there. Desserts, we have to be careful because Indian desserts are not very light, they're too sweet for the British palate. But yes, I think the knowledge of Indian regional food has to be with people like us because otherwise, who's going to do it? Everyone wants to play safe.
So let us go back to the beginning, Karen. Tell me whether your foray into the world was it by chance or was it planned?
No, nothing is planned in my life. So, except my children, nothing's planned. As I'm sure yours are. They might not plan. But food, no, I had no idea that I was going to get into food. So I came back to India, as I said, at the end of 83, 84, met Mr. Anand and married him. And much to my parents' dismay, decided to stay in India. They wanted me to live in Europe because they lived in Europe. And so I decided, what am I going to do? Because I'd done all these things in Europe. Couldn't really find anything where I fitted in. My Hindi was deplorable because my parents are not Hindi speakers anyway. And I said, well, what am I going to do? I can't read the news, I can't do this, I can't do that. So I started dabbling in food, and my husband was a filmmaker, and he entertained a lot, and I used to cook European food. And then somebody came home one day, it was a GM of a hotel, and said, can you do a salad? You keep making all these salads. Can you do a salad bar for me? And I said, okay. And I didn't really know what I was saying okay to. Remember, Pune was also is the home to the Osho Ashram. So we had a lot of foreigners in Pune who were missing their kind of food. And so I started a salad bar with 10 or 12 salads as like a main course, not as a side thing. And it was a runaway success from day one. And then somebody in Bombay, who had a big restaurant, a Chinese restaurant from Nelson Wong, also had a nightclub. And he said, look, it's a membership-only nightclub, women's membership only. So can you do something for women in the day? And I said, sure, let's do a salad bar. Oh, yes, he said. And again, I had to learn how to cook for bigger crowds. I knew how to cook for 10 to 20 people, but not how to cook for 100. And people coming in all the time, and we had all these famous people coming in, and Tina Moyam would come in, and that's a time when Anand Ambani was chasing her. These people were. I just knew that because I come from England, I didn't know who these people were. They just used to come in, and Maureen Walia used to come in, Nestle Walia, because they all travelled with the mystery of European food. So it was a great leap for me, and it really launched my career. But no, there was no plan.
You were perhaps, I would say, brought about continental food reference to the country.
Well, it's nice of you to say so, but I think I brought about a freshness. I think the continental food that we had in India then was very much under 5 to 5 stars. And they were very much, we had that one Italian between Trattoria and in the President in Bombay. I'm sure you didn't have much in Punjab. No, but even in those days, we had I tried to go to 2 places. You could get mushrooms. Can't imagine mushroom is like a national dish now. But it was in those days, in the mid-80s, you could get it in cafe galleries in Rich Candy, and you could get it in Rustam's in Colaba. Fresh mushrooms, 2 shops in the whole of Bombay. And in Delhi, I think in Defcon Market or something. So, those are the days where the European, and even if you got mushrooms, people didn't know what to do with them. They didn't know how to cook them. So it was really, really early days for European food. And then you got the Taj doing, their kind of conti, which was, white sauce and cream and that kind of thing. Yeah, as delicious as it is, it's not really, representative of the whole of the European continent. So it was very limited. And then we had English kind of food, right? Which was in clubs and so on. But I don't think it was reflective of what was happening in Europe.
Do you think now, the books now here, in today's times, we have all these exotic foods available from avocados, truffles, black garlic, and everything is, like I said, original right there. So do chefs have to work harder? Is it easier for them now, or is it harder?
I think there are far more chefs now. And there are far more people doing low carb and this and that, and lots of people. There aren't too few women out there. I would have thought in 30, 40 years, there'd be more women now. But there aren't in the food industry, which is why I'm still going with it. But I look at, there aren't too many young women out there. I think it's tough. It's always been tough. It's tough on your family life, it's long hours, it's traveling, it's all of that. So when that gentleman asked me about, what do you attribute your success to, I really have to say, I know it sounds cheesy, but I have to say family, because if I didn't have family support, I certainly couldn't have left my children and gone raving around everywhere, promoting what I did. My mother used to fly down from London to babysit. Not for one day, but like for 2 weeks or 3 weeks I was traveling. Or my husband was at home while I did it, and then we would swap. He didn't travel as much as I did. So you have to have that kind of support in India. If you want it all, if you want the children, the husband, the family. If you don't, and I notice a lot of young women now, in either the food industry or ambitious for a career, they don't want children. They can't have children because it's just too hard. It's too tough to judge it.
Carol, tell us if you are known for your market surveys. I think you think thoroughly, you know exactly where you source the local produce from, and perhaps that has led you to start the farmers market.
Yes.
Nine cities now?
It was. We've stopped now because of COVID, and we haven't restarted again because it's a big deal now. And things have changed after COVID. There's lots of licensing, and it's not so easy to do things anymore. So I just thought, we have, your mandis, what we call mandis in Maharashtra. We have the local markets, but there's nothing where you can go and you have a glass of wine or local wine. We only did Indian wine at the beginning, or local gin or whatever, and products. And pick up interesting products that people make. For example, you're talking about black truffle or black garlic or something. Lots of local people do interesting products. It could be a jam, it could be a sauce, it could be a bread. Now, some of these things are very expensive. And you think about it, do you really want, and that is also why I think wine is not taken off in India. Because nobody wants to buy a bottle of wine for $1,200 when they're not quite sure what's in it. They want to taste. So we encourage tasting. And all our vendors did a lot of tasting. And then when you taste something, you think, oh, I like that, or I don't. Fine. But until you actually taste something, whether it's truffle or whatever, you don't know. So some of us are privileged and we eat out a lot and we taste out and we taste things. But most people don't. So it was a great forum for young entrepreneurs to show their product and to see if people liked it. We launched things like, paper boat. The things that they launched with us in Delhi. They wanted somewhere that they wanted to know what the flavors were that people liked. There was the juice company in Bombay, what was it called, the fresh juice one. They launched with us in Bombay. That worked really well for them. Lots of people launched with us, and they became quite big. And other people, it didn't matter. You know, women come to me and say, "Oh, I make pickles, I make achars. How can I get bigger?" And the first thing I say to them is, do you have an accountant? Do you have somebody to go and look at all your government licensing, your FSSI rules?" And they look at me frightened. I said, "Well, if you don't want to get into that, make it from home and sell it to your friends. Sell it online, do whatever you like, sell it through, Facebook and Instagram. Don't get into the big league until you are ready for all of that rubbish which you need to do."
Tell us about Case Kitchen.
So Case Kitchen is my brand. It was under my name, Karen Anand, first. When I first had this salad bar in late 80s in Bombay, I did different salad dressings. And until then, people just knew salads and mayonnaise, right? And quite oily mayonnaise, that horrible thing that was called salad oil. If anyone remembers, it was horrible. I don't know what oil it was, cottonseed or something. It was disgusting. It was thick. It was like castor oil. You put in your hair. Horrible. And nobody had heard olive oil was to massage babies. You know, if you remember your little tins. And I used to do 10, 12 dressings and so on every day. And so I thought, well, let's make some dressings. So I went to somebody at the catering college and he came to help me and worked out preserving things without preservative and without colour and without. So it was the first time I think anyone had done anything without colour, without added flavour, because all the jams and things in India till then all had colour. Some of them still do colour and flavour. And then when I was writing one of my first books, which was a guide to eating out, it was a penguin book, guide to eating out in India. I used to stay in these hotels while I was, looking at restaurants and stuff. And there was an English GM at a Hyatt in Delhi who subsequently became my close friend. And he said, I used to give everyone little gifts of marmalade I made at home with a little cloth kapra thing on top. And so he said, "Oh, who makes this marmalade?" And I said, "I do." And he said, "Right, I'll give you a first order. 300 kilos only. How am I going to make 300 kilos?" So he gave me my first order, and I started a little in my garage. I started a little thing, got a license for it, employed women only, and we started making marmalades and jams, and that's how I started. And then I got into sauces, and I got into dressings. So we have about almost 40 products. And we also do a lot of white label, which is we label under other people's brands. So we do things for Big Basket, for Urban Platter. That's all, but that's under their brand. We've just got the tender, just Tar Air India. So the new Air India, all the business class, first class, condiments, jams, sauces are all from us. So that's a big one. Air India is a tough one, but we did it with blind tasting. It was us and I think 5 other companies, and they chose us. That was great. Yeah.
I think I was talking to you earlier about your culinary journey.
Yes.
Please tell us about what's actually the audience in love.
Yes, that's a good one. So about 5 or 6 years ago, a friend of mine from Calcutta who does take women on tours came to me and said, "Listen, I want to make this bigger. I take 10, 15 people, not even 15, 10 people. I want to make, take larger groups of women, and I can't manage on my own. And I want these tours." She takes India and out of India. "I want these tours to be a little more defined. So if you can give them a culinary focus or an experience focus." She's an excellent organizer, but she didn't have the wherewithal to get these things a bit more special. And so we started off doing tours to sort of 1-week tours to Italy, to France, to Uzbekistan, to the British countryside. And now, unfortunately, she's unwell, but I've continued after COVID, so I'm doing Uzbekistan shortly. So if anybody wants to come, send you details every time we do this. It's not just women anymore. This is the first one. I don't know what the interests. And all the women said, "We don't want our husbands with us." Maybe they want other husbands. Yeah, but not their own. Because also, apart from jokes, it's, the husband wants to get up late, he's been working hard, he wants to play golf, he wants to drink till late at night. Whereas women, by and large, want to get up early and go to the museum and go for an experience and have an interesting lunch and chit chat and get dressed and and as I was telling you, what I do is I bring in some interesting experiences. It started off with culinary, and then it got to a little bit of flash. So in Italy, for example, I was introduced to Salvatore Ferragamo, the shoe company is not him actually, it's his grandfather. But he is quite dishy, quite the looker. He has an Italian father who is a Ferragamo, of course, and an English mother. And he's just charming. So I had to have lunch with him. Had to have pushed myself to have lunch with him in the interests of the tour. And then my husband, he was in Florence and I was in Venice. I said, I'm taking the train, it's just a couple of hours down the way, and I'm going to have lunch at Salvatore Ferragamo. And my husband said, I've been wanting to go to the Uffizi Palace, and I've been wanting to see. I said, we can do it another day, because I have to. No, you don't want me at this lunch. No, I don't want you at this lunch. So he hadn't seen him yet, but he was suspecting something a little bit. But he was just gorgeous. He's a lovely man. And I said, look, I want to bring a group of women. Actually, I met him through, the Fratelli wine here. So they have an Italian partner. So the Italian partner's wife was his sales and marketing director. So I met him like that. Anyway, and so we stayed at his gorgeous hotel, which is called Il Boro, which is actually a medieval hamlet. It's very special. And I said, will you turn up to dinner one night? I couldn't say it. And he said, of course I will if I'm in town. And I thought he'd just, wriggle out of that one. And he didn't. And he did turn up. And he was very casual. He just had a pair of suit and a shirt on, no tie, nothing. And all these women turned up in their finery. I don't know where they were hiding these clothes. At the bottom of the bag, it was these beautiful outfits, Sabyasachi on display, beautiful jewelry, and he was quite taken, of course, but they were just enamored, So those sort of special things I do. We had a book session, not so exciting, a book session with Frances Mays, who's written Under the Tuscan Sun. So that was fun. We had, I know you all love this, we had a shopping thing at the Prada outlet. And I was telling earlier that people were so, the guys, we have personal shoppers in English and so on. But, my group from Calcutta didn't need them to translate euros to rupees very quickly. They were so overwhelmed with us that they gave us 70% off. So, of course, everything is established. So we do some fun stuff like that as well. So those are the countries that I've done so far. And I will send you details. So if anybody is interested, we can do another tour, especially for you.
That would be wonderful. We'll be making it 10 years. We love that. So tell me, prolific writer, like you mentioned earlier, 20 books under your belt?
Yes, 12, to be honest, 12 were a little series called the Simple Cooking Series. Very many of you have seen them. They were little square books.
They're very interesting names.
Yes, so Simple Cooking for the Smart Man, Simple Cooking for the Desperate Housewife. That's really for the women who, Desperate Housewife was on television at the time, which is why I called it that. For women who don't, for whom cooking doesn't come easily. So it was things like entertaining your husband's boss, to a children's party, to a traditional dinner, your in-laws are over what to cook. They don't necessarily want to eat nachos or whatever. So it was different situations. It was quite fun to do, yeah.
So, I've spoken about what you do, we've asked many questions. Which hat do you like wearing most? author?
Yeah, I say to people when I don't want to wax my upper lip, then I like the author. No, I love not dressing up occasionally, but then I say that because writing comes to me first, I think, and then food and everything else, and textiles and all the other things I love come to me second and third. But having said that, when I launched the book in at St. Regis in Bombay on Thursday, it was very special. And I think at times it's nice to have a bit of glamour, right? It's nice to dress up. It's all my old crony pals turned up. Some of them are famous, some are not, doesn't matter. They all turned up at 7 o'clock on the dot. And a friend of mine who heads, lived to us, he said, that's testament to you, not to Bombay, whatever. People turned up for you. And that made me feel really special because I've not lived in Bombay for a while. And it was fantastic. We had a great launch, great food, and it was a great evening. It started at 7. Kind of people left by about 9:30, which was perfect. That's my idea of a good time. I can't party till 2 in the morning anymore, so it was fun. So I think occasionally it's nice to have some glam sham and some pat on the back and some validation. But by and large, I love my home, and I think writing is my first love.
COVID gave rise to so many cooks.
Well, this is what COVID is.
And post-COVID, there's this burgeoning of cloud,
Absolutely.
cloud kitchens, and there's wonderful small eateries and cafes and things. Any words of wisdom for all of you?
Look, I think it's, the only thing with cloud kitchens, I didn't actually cook too much more during COVID because I was practicing recipes from the book. So all the recipes in the book are tried and tested. I have to say that because a lot of people write books that don't try the recipes. I know that sounds absurd, but it's true. Including a lot of chefs who will not be named today who don't try them. They give some monkey in their office to try it, and I don't know if it's been done. And you can tell because when you look at it, it has funny ingredients that you can't get here. So I think there's a lot of that goes on. Cloud kitchens, my only thing with cloud kitchens is that a lot of people who set up who are not trained don't really know the whole safety and hygiene side very much. So I think if you're going to grandma, it's fine. And if you're going to someone with ex-Oberoi or something, you're okay. But in between, a lot of kids started this cloud kitchen thing, and I'm just worried about the hygiene side of it. That's the only thing.
So I'm going to just do this quick spot on a few more questions.
Sure.
Floor to the audience. Fusion food, are you a fan, or do you think it's all confusion?
Mainly confusion. No, I'm not into that molecular business and all that. I think these are trends that come, and all trends are good. It's like Nobel cuisine came, which was this whole thing in Europe of smaller portions and lots of courses. That started, I think, in the 70s. It was good because people started eating less, and they started eating things with olive oil and not butter. Otherwise, Europe was very buttered, especially Northern Europe, very buttered. Fixated. So it was good. It was a good trend. But then you had stories like there were these jokes I remember where someone says, waiter, I ordered a steak, and the steak hasn't come. And the waiter would say, push over the pea, the steak is underneath. And jokes like that because everything was so small. So I think the trend was always like molecular, the whole trend. But if I see spherification again, it drives me insane. Do we really need a spherification of pani puri? Do I really need rasa? I had something the other day, it was a delicious meal by the way, at a restaurant in ITC Chola. Fantastic food, but you get a spherification of pani puri. Now, I think that's taking it a little bit. So, yeah, confusion.
Do you think a way to a man's heart is through his stomach? Well,
we all know what is to a man's heart, so that's number one. Maybe number two is food.
What is your favorite comfort food?
Oh God, everyone says I must be Punjabi in my last life because I love aloo matar. And yeah, I can eat aloo matar every day. So usually when I come back from anywhere, I have aloo matar and hot chawal. That's my comfort food.
Is there something you wouldn't eat?
I don't like the idea of eating bugs. I have been to China and they have cockroaches and all sorts of things. I must say, I kind of tried it and I didn't want to try it. Didn't do anything for me and I'm not going to try it again. So those sort of things don't give me pleasure.
Feni or wine?
Oh, that's a tough one because it's sort of heart versus palate. Wine probably.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
And what was the first thing that you ever cooked? Something that you were
Oddly enough, I think it was tandoori chicken. Yeah, and it was in the UK. And my mother had some masala powder thing that she called tandoori. And I mixed it with dahi and I put it in and everybody loved it. And I thought, wow. I must have been about 16. I didn't cook much as a young person, as I said, because my mother never cooked. I mean, she did have to cook, but she wasn't like, come, go sit in the kitchen and bake a cake. Didn't do that kind of thing. So I really only cooked. And when I went abroad, I never got a chance. I saw lots of things. I learned about ingredients when I went to France, how to pick a melon, how to pick cheese, but I never cooked. And I think I started cooking at about 16.
Lastly, tell us, is there an easy way to decide what to cook for dinner?
No, I must tell you. So I saw this thing the other day on Instagram, and it was, I think, Oprah talking to Aretha Franklin, one of these big, not Rihanna, big jazz black singers, fantastic women. I think she was Aretha Franklin. And she said, what is the toughest decision you've made in your life? Thinking she would say, right, this album or this thing, anything to do with her career. And she turned around and she said, what to cook for dinner tonight? She said, I don't know, it drives me insane. And I think that is a tough one. It is, because we don't live on our own, right? So, but why do we always ask men? I still ask my husband, what would you like for dinner? I'm thinking, why don't I ask him? Why don't I just put it on the table? But we do. It's an Indian thing, it's ingrained. But I think even abroad, all my foreign friends do the same thing. They ask the husband. And listen, don't think it's only Indian men. Because my foreign friends, especially good friends, and their husbands are useless with a capital U. All this rubbish about men cook abroad, it's not true. Young men cook. My sons cook quite well, at least for themselves. Both their wives don't cook, oddly enough. And they go to Korea women, and one is a doctor and one is something else, and they don't cook. Well, she can, but she doesn't. And the doctor doesn't cook at all. So, things are changing. But what to cook for dinner? So what my son does is, I think it's not so much what to cook for dinner, I think it's what do you have in your fridge. I think you have to be smart about shopping, right? So, for example, once a week I do an organic vegetable shop. It comes from a farm. I do order, and I order more or less the same thing every week. All the organic vegetables come and they stay in my fridge. So at least I have that. Non-veg, I'm not a big chicken eater, but I try and at least, now we've got Licious and Licious and Meatigo and all these online portals are fantastic for delivering, and we have them a lot for delivering fresh chicken, fresh prawns, so you don't have to go to the market anymore. Fresh fish with very good portals. So at least you can think in the afternoon, oh, maybe I'll make some fish, and you call them, and they're within 90 minutes. So that helps. But my husband hates it when I call him at the office at about 4 o'clock. And I have my cook lady now goes at 4:30. And I said, well, what do you expect me to say at 4 o'clock? So I said, well, she's going soon. And that means I have to do it. So speak soon, otherwise we're having vegetarian, So it's tough. That one is a tough one. I think it's just, what do you think? I think you just have to be organized, that's all.
Yes. Perhaps, yeah, it's a good idea to keep your fridge based on
These sort of things, or at least these, do you have them here? Do you have this? You're looking a bit like that's what you don't have them.
in smaller towns, we have the advantage that things are close by.
Just on you can rush out and get them.
So, yeah, now we'll move on to some questions from the audience. I could go on. I have so many questions to ask. Any questions?
So I read in a book about the kurkuri building and how it stayed kurkuri even in the monsoons.
Yes.
So what is the secret?
And in Hong Kong,
In
I did a dinner for the JLF people, the Jacob Fest, over here by the bay, and we did the banquet dinner with a chef of mine, and he managed to keep it crispy for 3 or 4 hours, which was amazing. He adds corn flour to the batter, very simple. And also in Kerala we do we don't do a bindi there. What do we? No, we don't. We do palak, we do rocket, bhaji, kurkure, we do various things. It's fantastic. So after you mix the corn flour with the besan, and the batter should be really thin, he puts it under a lamp. So in restaurants you have that heating. It's not exactly a salamander, it's a heating lamp. So he puts it under the heating lamp, not directly, but about 8-10 inches away. And that's what also my chef in Hong Kong did. He put it under a heating lamp, and it stayed roasted for 4 hours. Yeah, otherwise it doesn't, and it's a corn flour as well. I'm sure you all have little tricks.
So hi, I'm a doctor, so it's coming from here. So when you are cooking, is it just about taste or a little bit about nutrition as well? Because it's become a big problem.
Yeah.
People are not really eating what they should be eating. And strangely so, when we were kids, growing up, looking at our grandmoms cooking, whatever we were eating at home somehow combined the two. And that got lost somewhere in urbanization and fast-paced life. So what do you have to say about that?
No, I totally agree with you. I think for 30, 40 years we've been eating a lot of rubbish. It's got lost. And our grandmother's food has got lost. It's also got lost with this whole post-war thing of things are now easy. Why do you want to burden yourself with cooking? Because things are easy. So in that easy business, we started eating food that is not good for us. We've been doing fast food. Chefs have been taking, liberties with cutting corners. I totally agree. I think, even when I chose, you were asking me about, when I chose recipes, I chose them for authenticity, I chose them for ease, and I also chose them for the health factor, for sure. I haven't, if you've gone through the book, you will, I haven't put very few desserts in this book, if you notice, very few. And the desserts that are there are with jaggery or with coconut or with quite good ingredients. I tend to stay off the whites, except rice, but then you can have brown rice too. But I tend to stay off, so tell people don't have stuff with maida, don't have stuff with white sugar. Try and keep off the excessive oil. Obviously fried food is delicious, undoubtedly. Nothing like a bhajia, but yeah, once in a way. But I think you have to just make, and that's what I did when I did salads in Bombay years ago. Make them sexy, make the whole concept quite sexy, quite trendy. If you make it trendy, people will eat it. Half of them eat it because it's trendy, and the other half eat it because it's healthy. And if you get, I went to a naturopathy resort just now, not a hospital, but it was fabulous in Kerala. And when I said to the doctors I was leaving, it was completely raw diet when you're there. Completely raw, delicious food. No cooking at all. So it was raw, no cooking, vegetarian, vegan, obviously. And when I was leaving, I said to him, what is the takeaway? I can't do this at home every day. I wish I could. So he said, look, if you can eat by 7:30, they used to give us dinner at 6 there. If you can eat by 7:30, and if you can day. Now that one more meal doesn't have to be a fancy salad. So when I'm at home and I'm working, I just tell the girls to chop and cut kachumba. You know, tomato, kira, whatever. Just chop and cut a whole bowl of whatever it's for. Obviously not Hindi or whatever, but, you know, the normal vegetables at home. And I will put a dressing on it, or, you know, I will salt, pepper, limbo on it if necessary. I don't usually put oil on it. And I find if I have a big bowl of that, I'm not hungry. So, you know, I have a big bowl of that. I don't have roti, I don't have rice. And I think if you can tell people to have, and that really stuck with me, if you can tell people to have one big raw meal a day and try and eat, I know it's tough for me as well, try and eat earlier. So, you know, when you do a family dinner or dinner out, it's an exception rather than a rule. I think that works, but yeah, you have to tell people.
But I also feel, you know, if you really promoted the traditional recipes and the traditional way of cooking, a lot of our normal subsidies were done in a way which combined taste and health both. Like, you don't have to put too many ingredients. Well, even in Punjabi cooking, you know, we can make a sabzi like turnips or shaljam, which has 2 ingredients. And it's amazing in the taste, and I think that should be promoted.
Absolutely, even your dals and your rajma doesn't have to have malai in it, but the point is, I mean, in the book there are a lot of traditional recipes, and I put them there because they are simple. The only thing is, it's not trendy, so I'm trying to, through movement of chefs, you know, who are looking at traditional ingredients, trying to make them interesting for people to eat. So if you tell people that, you know, we're different, we're women, we can influence a lot of people in our families. A lot of kids don't find it trendy to eat a sabzi or roti. You know, they want something a bit more flashy or a bit more, you know, Mexican or Chinese or God knows what. But no, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's nothing like home food.
So I'm a doctor, but I'm a big foodie. I'm the one who cooks, not the one who doesn't cook. So I guess that catches on. I think a lot of women over here have that role to play in their homes.
I think
as far as kids are concerned.
Yeah, because cooking now has become fashionable again. But in the middle it wasn't. You know, so I think now that it's fashionable again, we have to take control of our kitchens, basically. You know, if we don't, then anything's going to happen.
So, I have this question. I think we should, you know, encourage cooking with the newer generation, because with urbanization and modernization coming in place, somewhere the art of cooking is dying down. Art of cooking at home.
It's just time. It's a time thing.
Yes, but you know, this for me it's therapeutic. Cooking is therapeutic, but in a way we were like kind of not forced, but we were like we were expected to cook when those days when we got married. We were expected to take on that kitchen as a domain and, you know, make something out of it. This is not happening with the newer generation, and I think, you know, somewhere nice cooking classes again happening would you know,
Maybe you're right. You're right. There should be people. But I think the whole thing is time.
It's
you know,
not.
they don't have time for each other in a relationship. That's not
So
cooking.
you need to take up that time, and I think you kind of build a bond also when you're cooking together.
Yeah.
So somewhere, you know, I think
That's a good idea. Maybe I should do that. Cooking classes for couples.
Yeah.
They have them in America. They have these cooking classes for every couple. It's quite a good idea, I think. That might be into business.
Probably you just have a big village to come along. No, but young men and women maybe.
Yeah,
Like
they may.
20s and early 30s.
Especially, I think in metros where they're on their own, there are no chotus there.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
yeah.
But I was talking at before lunch, but also, you know, when I did this in Italy, and I did this fantastic experience with a Michelin star chef, and she was cooking and doing, and I said, just do simple things like a handmade pasta. So I bought these Calcutta babies, and there were 30 of them. At the end of the cooking class, there were like 3. Because
They don't cook at home. So they were interested for about half an hour, and then they got bored. And I thought, God, I spent all this money, but But now I realize it wasn't a focal point for them. Because they don't cook.
Yeah.
So they have their totals as well. But I think younger people, it might work. Especially if you do it over a glass of wine and something, and and not just Indian, you could do Indian, you could do a bit of Japanese, you could do something.
Then we rustling things up.
Rustling things up, absolutely. No, I think it would work.
Can you be part of this cooking Olympiads, right? What are they about the same?
Judge or something.
Yeah, but the IHM guys, yeah.
Was it something similar? Like young?
No. Those are young kids from culinary school.
Okay.
They're from culinary schools around the world. I was a judge of that.
I have got a question. Like, since we are talking a lot about local produce and going back to the roots, there's been an influx of a lot of wines and whiskey being brewed in India. Ashanti, Charlie's whiskey, and all those. Like, which are your top favorites from India?
You know, wines, I was on what was called the Indian Grape Board, but they want to call it Wine Board, many years ago. I think I was the only woman, and they closed it down now, it's a government organisation. And I was a firm believer in pushing wine in India as to now. The only thing I find is that the consistency of Indian wine. You know, one day it'll be great, one day it won't. I haven't figured that one out. I know vintages change, but I don't see why consistency is a problem, and it's not a problem in France or Spain or whatever. So that is a problem. The other problem I fear with wines here is the price. Because I think people are still wary about spending $1,000 on a bottle of wine that they may or may not like, rather than $1,000 or $1,200 on an imported wine, which they can give to a friend. You know, so I think we have an issue. But there are some nice wines. I buy a lot of Fratelli. They have a series called MS, which is quite nice. You have to taste and see what you like. Grover have come out with a new red Signet, which is quite nice. All the gins from Goa. Look at the gins. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, 20 gins, but there are certainly 3 or 4 that are quite good. I thought they're making vodka here. Whiskey, they've always made. It doesn't have. I mean, it's made from sugarcane. It's made from molasses. It's not made from malt. But recently, for my launches, we're doing a jewels, which is an important thing. It's a Japanese smooth. It's a Japanese style. So I think there's a lot happening in India now. There's 2 gins made in Punjab. There's one called Jaisalmer, I think. Isn't that made somewhere? Which is quite good. Not cheap, quite good. And there's another one. There's another one like that that's made somewhere before. No, I think gin is a simple thing to make. It's not so I think we should support our own. Totally agree.
India is a huge country, and you also had challenge picking up the states you wanted to pick up the food from. But still, we do not see a lot of Michelin star restaurants which are Indian. What is the challenge behind that?
I honestly think the Michelin people are very racist. I really do. No, I really do. I've said this on a public forum. Because Michelin started in France. Okay, you know how it started? So Michelin is Italian, right? So they found that there were these fantastic restaurants opened by young chefs who couldn't afford places in Paris. So they would have something in the country at their father's house or their father's house. So to promote those, Michelin started supporting the book of where those restaurants were. It wasn't about Paris. It was where those restaurants were. And they hoped people would drive there with their Michelin tires. So loosely, it would be sponsored by them. But it started off, I think, before the war. And so it was concentrated on French food. And the idea of French food in courses with a fork and knife, fine dining. It wasn't about, now there's something called Bib Gourmand, which is Michelin, sort of bistro Michelin. And I like that where chefs want to conform to that. So I want to know when I went the other day at ITC in Chennai, at the Chola, fabulous restaurant. The chef is doing that, course-wise, 10 courses, 7 courses, 12 courses, lovely food, but it's all plated. So yeah, if you want a Michelin star, that's the way to go, otherwise wait more. Hopefully.
Hello, I'm Namita and I can relate to your genre because I'm a food photographer. So my question would be that my work is turned from a long career as a photography. I followed my passion. As I heard the same from you that it was very sudden thing that happened. I want to know that how do you define success in your passion? How do you think that this is something that I have found success?
That's a good question. What do you think success is?
I think that you cannot define success to somebody because it is something in you. You can't say I'm a successful person.
What makes you happy?
That is the only thing. My passion for photography makes me happy, and I really want to know this question from you because I can see that's something that what other person has to say on this views.
I think I have to be happy doing what I do. I don't have a pencil factory or a conveyor belt factory. I'm doing what I do, but it's hard work. It's very, very hard work. It's easy to inherit an industry from a family member and continue it. But it's hard work creating something yourself. But what is success? Success is also money. It's not necessarily lots of money, but it's enough money. And I think as a woman, I think women, as much as we try not to say it's important, it is. I think it's important, it's validation. I think if you earn money from what you're doing, it's validation. So if people are paying you for your service, men don't seem to have that kind of burden, but we do. So I think because we like to be secure, I think women like to be secure. And you don't have to look, I personally believe, if you don't have to look for a man for that security, you do it on your own, I think it's very important. So money is important, it may not be number one, but I think money is important. I think validation by the outside, if someone buys your product, or buys your sari, or buys your jewelry, or whatever, that's important. And you have to be happy doing what you're doing. Not in that order.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. We have to
Wind up.
wind up.
But I'm around. If anyone would like me to sign their books,
Yes,
then
all of us will be taking the tour through the delights and enjoying the stories and
Connected to them has been so pleasurable, I'm sure, for all of you here in Ludhiana. On behalf of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, I, Deepika, thank Ms. Karen Anand for delighting us with her recipes and stories at the Right Circle session. I also thank Mr. Kajen for the amazing pattern of questions. I express my heartfelt gratitude to the eminent patrons, Student Limited, SR's Women of Ludhiana, and the team at Club Centra for organizing today's literary session. And of course, the lovely audience here today who have been very engaging, without whom the session cannot be successful. Much thanks to all of you for being here on time and, of course, taking this time out of your schedule to attend our session. May I now request Dr. Wali Thakur to come forward and felicitate Ms. Karen Anand with the Kant choreo. Please.
It's beautiful and it matches what you're wearing.